people are drafting Matt Forte like so high right now. I mean, like I drafted Matt Forte. I did not draft Matt Forte. Somebody in one of my leagues drafted Matt Forte as the number 6 running back overall in my league.
Okay, Phil, Matt Forte.
Who did that? Who does that?
I can only guess who did it. But Matt Forte is a classic. Is the most classic of the one-year wonders. And I'll tell you why. It's because he was one of those guys that scored an abnormally high amount of touchdowns for the amount of yardage and the amount of – he only averaged like 3.8 yards per carry. It was the only year that he ever did anything.
1-yard touchdown plunges.
And there's a couple ways that you can look at that. You can look at Jay Cutler's coming in. He may open things up, but I think although Jay Cutler has looked good in the preseason so far, I think he's actually going to struggle at times, especially the first half of the season. You know, you always have acquaintance struggles with a new team.
He has nobody to throw the ball to, Doug.
And they don't have many receivers. You're right, Phil.
They have Greg Olsen. That's
all they have. They don't have many receivers.
Devin Hester is your number 1 receiver? Huh?
He's a kick returner.
I thought he played defense.
Isn't he a kick returner on defense? Okay. Yeah, you make a good point there. Cutler is going to have some problems here and there. And that may spell problems with Forte. And if Cutler does succeed, and Cutler is good at throwing the deep ball, well, doesn't that mean that there's going to be less, goal line carries for Forte because Cutler is going to be pounding in through the air instead? So
it's a joke.
The writing is on the wall for Forte. If you're drafting him in the first round, you're wrong, and you're going to pay for it severely.
Yes. And then the other person I see overdrafted is Steve Slayton from Houston. Who's drafting this guy in the first round?
He's being drafted 10th overall.
It's ridiculous.
As the 8th running back.
Don't draft anybody from Houston in the first round, guys, if we have any advice for you at all. No one from Houston.
That's a good point.
Andre Johnson maybe in the second round, but nobody from Houston in the first round, folks. You heard it here first.
Slayton came out of college, out of West Virginia, as a good running back and had good impact his first year in the league. That being said, Houston having all that offensive success that they had last year, I don't see them repeating it this year. They're bound to, somebody's going to be, running a roadblock for Steve Slayton and possibly Matt Schaub and these other guys. So you had Matt Forte and Steve Slayton are pretty obvious. Now, D'Angelo Williams, I think about a little bit differently. He's one of those guys that could probably maintain.
Maybe.
Over in Carolina. Maybe. But let's go back to my former...
what are we doing with the Steven Jackson guy, though? I mean, is he ever going to be a top 5 performer again?
Let's go back, Phil. Okay, and we're not going to go too far back, but we're going to use the last quarter of a century as our observation period. And these guys, like D'Angelo Williams, who I believe also ran for, how many did he run for last year, Phil?
Lots of touchdowns.
He ran for 1,500. Okay, so the 1,500 and up yard
18
running.
18 touchdowns, though, Doug. That's what you got to pay attention
18 touchdowns. See, that's the thing.
And 2 receiving. 20 touchdowns.
20 touchdowns is abnormally high for a running back. That is almost always going to go down.
It's like Emmitt Smith territory.
Yeah, it is. And it's almost always going to go down the next year. But
it will go down.
The 1,500 and up yard running backs averaged 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns their following season. That's what happens. That's what worries me about Adrian Peterson. That's what would worry me about any of these guys, is because it's so hard to repeat that quality season. They average, Phil, all 1,500-yard running backs and up, they average 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns the next season.
Carolina has a better committee there that he has to worry about. However, Minnesota has a better quarterback coming in. It has to be a better quarterback coming in there to help them out there in Minnesota. So, arguably should open up their passing game a little bit so that the running game should be able to go down and score more points.
Arguably.
But the Carolina passing game is not going to improve much at all.
Steven Jackson is a solid pick. He's a proven running back. And LaDainian Tomlinson, number 7, I'll be honest, I would rather draft him higher. If I were any
I'd take him over any of those guys.
If I were any pick after Adrian Peterson, who I believe is probably a solid number 1 pick, and even before that, I would take LaDainian Tomlinson.
Over Maurice Jones-Drew in a WCOF scoring system.
Yeah, I would take Tomlinson over any of those guys.
He's due to rebound just like Seymour did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But let's go
Chris
down.
Johnson, 1-year wonder.
Screw that guy. Let's go down a little bit lower. I want us to talk about guys like Barber, Portis, Brown, Jacobs. These guys are getting drafted. I got Jacobs in the middle of the second round of a draft last weekend. I mean, I think that's a bonus package.
That is, Phil. And I got Frank Gore in the second round of a draft.
That's a bonus package
I took
also.
LaDainian Tomlinson and Frank Gore with my first 2 picks. What's wrong with that?
It's the greatest thing ever.
People are so focused on what happened last year, they forgot that LaDainian Tomlinson had 2 great years, stellar years before last year, and Frank Gore had 2 great years before last year.
LaDainian Tomlinson is one of the greatest running backs in fantasy football history.
He is one of the best.
And Gore is solid. I mean, not very exciting.
And then you have...
But he gets the job done. And
he does.
He does. He totally gets the job done.
He gets the job done, and he gets a lot of receptions. So if you're in that point per reception WCOF league or whatever, Frank Gore is your man. And don't be ashamed at all to take him late in the first round or in the second round.
This guy we're getting drafted 29th overall. We got to talk about Ray Rice for a second.
Let's talk about Ray Rice at number 29 overall.
Ray Rice is a guy that's going to totally take over the job in Baltimore here for Willis McGahee. I mean, and this guy is getting like all kinds of passes thrown his way. I mean, the entire Baltimore offense is going to be totally like revamped, and Ray Rice is going to be an integral part of this. And if I'm in a points per reception league, that's the kind of guy I want. I'm going to draft Ray Rice above a guy like Noshawn Moreno almost any time, because if you draft Moreno, you got to draft. Who do you have to draft? You got to draft Hillis, and
it's hard.
you got to draft like 5 other guys.
You got to waste 5 picks on Denver running backs if you take yes Sean, no Sean. You get to take no Sean Marino, and you're screwed out of 5 picks in your. Don't even bother with it. Take one of the other guys later that's probably going to end up having the Denver starting running back job.
Seabuck.
There's some other guys there like Buckhalter that are talented, Phil. They really are. You got.
How about this debacle with the New Orleans running back situation?
Can we talk about Brian Westbrook for a second? Without his injury worries, isn't Brian Westbrook like a top 3 running back? If you don't have, and people worry about his injuries every year, Phil. Every year he completes 14 games and he ends up in the top 5 of running backs, of fantasy running backs.
It's hard to argue with him. I mean,
he does it every year.
A legitimately solid guy. I mean, when you have this guy and he's on your team and he's playing football games, he's getting you inordinate amount of points. I mean, it's outrageous.
He's
worth having. But if he's gonna be a part-time player, I mean, you just have to count on him, and you can't really draft his backup player because the backup player, whoever they plug in there for him, is never nearly even comparable to him.
Yeah, they're never as good. Ronnie Brown checks in at 15 there, but that wasn't in the.
Yeah, you don't want to draft any. No Miami Dolphin players want to be on your team this year. I
ended up drafting Ronnie Brown, I think, in the 4th round, so I don't know how he's at number 15. Ryan Grant, 1-year wonder. Pierre Thomas, another 1-year wonder. But let's be honest. Reggie Bush at number 23. Now you're finally getting some kind of value on
ridiculous value on Reggie Bush in every draft you can be in.
He's the number 23.
He's injured,
but he's been overdrafted, 1st round, 2nd round draft pick every year since he's been in the league. Never lived up to it, and he's not even in the top 30 overall players being taken now. He's the 23rd running back taken, and you're getting him somewhere around the 5th round.
People are drafting Marshawn Lynch above Reggie Bush, and we know Marshawn Lynch is going to miss the first 3 games of the year.
Yeah, Lynch is suspended. However, having said that, I think he's a solid pick as long as you keep
as a late round running back.
As long as you keep in mind that you're missing 3 games right off the bat. That's three games.
And Doug, in the drafts I've seen, Ryan Grant's a tremendous value too. He's sliding down far. The Packers offense should be legitimate. They should be solid.
Starting to slide.
Yes, he could be a 1-year wonder, Doug. I know you're going to go there,
but it doesn't matter
in about 2 seconds.
That.
But you're getting him in the 3rd or the 4th round of
it doesn't matter
draft.
at that.
Tremendous value.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. I agree with you, and only because, Phil, my rule is you don't draft 1-year wonders in the 1st round, no matter how good they look.
Just not in the 1st round.
Adrian Peterson has done it 2 years in a row. He's not a 1-year wonder anymore, okay? And some of these other guys have put in some good, solid half-season, committee seasons like D'Angelo Williams. But you don't draft a 1-year wonder in the 1st round. After that, you can take your chance on the Pierre Thomas or the Darren McFadden or whatever have you. But Larry Johnson is the 24th running back taken that you're getting in the 5th or 6th round.
I don't want him.
Come on,
I still don't want him, Doug.
Willie Parker.
I still don't want Larry Johnson.
Willie Parker. Okay, 6th or 7th round.
I take Ray Rice over Larry Johnson or Willie Parker.
I won't take him, Phil, because Ray Rice is unproven. Larry Johnson and Willie Parker have proven themselves on the field.
And they'll get injured in the
Willie
third game of the
Parker
season.
is still the starting running back until somebody tells me otherwise.